Today I have with me Mr. Jeff Borden. How are you,
buddy,
Jeff?
how are you?
Man, it's been so good hanging out with you today.
I know, man. I've missed it.
Yeah, I love that Hawaiian shirt.
Thank you. And
Jeff is always wearing Hawaiian shirts, by the way. All right, so Jeff, today...
it is not Hawaiian, but I can see how someone from Springfield might think so.
Okay. Moving on. Today, we had Ben Mandrell, the president of Lifeway, with us at Long Hollow. Great message, super challenging. Yep. He was preaching out of Esther. So, Jeff, can you give us just a snapshot of what we were talking about there? And then we're going to simply talk about some things that maybe stood out to us.
Yeah, so Esther 3, in a nutshell, he's talking about Esther. I think some keywords there. She was beautiful, but she was broken, right? So everything on the outside looked right, but inside she was hurting.
Yeah.
And then he spent a lot of time talking about Haman and Mordecai. Essentially, Haman was given everything he could ever want, but Mordecai wouldn't bow to him, and that just grinded him, right? So just goes to show that you can have everything, and yet you still will not be satisfied.
Right. Oh, my goodness. I don't know about you, but I have seen that true in my life.
Man, isn't it something?
Yeah, it's
you
something.
know what I think the biggest display of that is?
What is that?
Christmas afternoon.
Okay, tell me.
When your kids ask for things and they get them, and then by the afternoon
they're done playing with them.
Yeah.
What's up?
It's like, wait, what happened? They're like, for months, this is all I've heard about.
I know, right?
And then suddenly, nothing.
Yep. Yeah, that is so true.
I think sometimes we live the Christmas day life.
No Christmas gifts this year. Let's do that.
I'm down.
All right, sweet. Let's do it. All right. So, anyways, today's message. What's something that stood out to you, Jeff? You may have already said it.
Well, no. I mean, I was thinking of a couple key phrases that he said, and if you watch this, we definitely encourage you to do that. He said the snare of compare was a phrase that stood out because, I mean, you and I know, and we've talked honestly. Andrew and I have had a lot of honest conversations about ministry over the years, and one of those has been comparison.
Right.
And like even in ministry, like you can compare, but you're always going to lose.
Right.
So let's take ministry out of the equation and just in your everyday life, you'll lose comparing.
Oh, my goodness. And this is something I've struggled with my entire life. When I was a kid, it was, oh, man, my best friend's better at baseball than me. When I was in high school, it was, man, that guy's truck is nicer than mine.
Really, a truck?
Yeah, I mean, that's just a weakness in my life, okay? And, I mean, I can just think of every season of life, how I've always compared to somebody else. And all it does is rob me of joy in my life, and I'm not as thankful for the things that are right in front of me.
Yep. Why do you think that is? Why do you think we do that? Why do you think we're so quick to compare?
I can only speak for myself.
Yeah.
So I would say for me, I don't know necessarily quick to compare, but sometimes I get caught up. Sometimes my focus is off. Sometimes why am I even worried about that in the first place? Yeah. That's because I'm not allowing the Lord to satisfy me. Like I know that He's enough. I know that He is everything I need. I've learned that lesson the hard way multiple times in life. Yeah. But for some reason, I still drift into thinking that I need something more than everything God has given me. So why do I even think that way in the first place? Is because I'm allowing my mind, my heart's affection, whatever, to drift into thinking that I need more, I deserve more, woe is me, whatever.
Yep. I agree 100%. I think in those moments, and I heard somebody say this, and I'd give them credit, except I've forgotten it.
I think it's probably me that said it.
Probably. I just take credit for myself most of the time, but in reality, I think there are the moments we look at things like that, and we'd never intentionally do it,
right?
But we think that in those moments, that kind of stuff can satisfy us more than God can,
right?
You know, man, if I lost this much weight, or I looked this way, or had this person, or was married to them, who knows? You know, hey, that's going to fulfill this part of me that I feel is empty.
Yeah.
And yet, I think one of the opening statements he said was really true. He said, the things that satisfy us today will not satisfy us tomorrow.
Wow. Yeah. Man, well, I mean, I've told this 100 times on the breakdown if you've watched this, but that's my story. Like, God called me here. I ran from that and pursued everything the world had for me that I thought I got it all, and I was never satisfied. Lost it all, realized all I had left was Jesus, and He's all I ever needed. Now, I learned that lesson the hard way, and I still struggle with drifting into that mindset of that I need more.
It's it brings to light, or it really, how can we say this best? It really showcases that Jesus' words are true when He says you got to die to yourself every day.
Right.
Right? Because, I mean, that's a struggle. If those things go unchecked, you can see why they would lead down some really dark
Okay, so I'm
paths.
glad you said that. One thing I kind of wrote down, he didn't exactly say it this way, but this is how it hit me. Hard things undealt with will create a hard heart. So that's kind of what he said. I kind of paraphrased it into my own little, I just condensed what he said basically. But
Right.
But I've seen that true in my life. I've seen one hard, and he kind of talks about how we'll let one person completely rob us of all our joy or one situation. I've seen it true in my life where one hard situation, one comment that maybe even wasn't meant the way I took it, just completely festers in my mind and grows and becomes something way larger than it ever should have been.
Yep.
I've seen that true.
It does. And isn't it wild when that goes unchecked, trying to root out that festering of bitterness in a week, 6 months, whatever it is way more difficult than if you'd have dealt with it the very first
my
day.
goodness, yes.
You know?
Yeah, well, okay. Well, I think about it this way. This is something I think I came up with this. I give myself credit. We're giving ourselves a lot of credit today.
Yeah.
So there's only two things that happen organically. I know you love the term.
Yeah.
We hope it happens organically.
Right.
In my mind, nothing happens organically
I do not
except
like
for
that phrase.
I was being sarcastic. Yeah. Weeds in my garden.
That's it.
And sin in my life.
That's it.
Those are the two things I've found out that happen organically.
Yep.
And with weeds, if I don't pull them, what happens? They take root. They overwhelm the other vegetation that you really want to have there, and you just have a big mess. So to pull them early and often is way better for your garden, your flower bed, etc. Same is true for sin in my life. Like if I see something starting to grow, it's better to pull it right away instead of waiting and letting it continue to grow and take root.
Yeah, 100% agree.
So what happened to Haman at the end of the story?
Man, I was thinking of that when he was talking about it. And in the story, Haman has built a 75-foot gallows, which, by the way, doesn't seem like much now. That's like a 7-story building.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
Which nowadays is like, okay, that's huge. But back then, what was that tall?
Yeah, nothing.
I'm like, how are they going to hang this guy? But anyway, I digress. My point is, he built it to hang Mordecai.
Right.
Just because of his anger and that fester of bitterness. And yet, he, in fact, was hung by his own device. And
I wrote this down that he said he was murdered by his own emotions. And that hit me. I'm like, okay, how many times do I allow my own emotions to do so much damage in my life?
Yeah. And you know what that makes me think? A lot. It makes me wonder, like, how our families and the people close to us see it way more than we do.
Oh, my goodness.
Or feel the effects of it.
Yeah,
because we're living in that bitterness, anger,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Then that means it's impacting our families probably way more than it's impacting.
Okay, so real talk. It's easy for me to come here 5 days a week, hang out with my buddies, have a great time, keep the smile on my face, and go home and my family get the worst of me. Because
100%.
I'm allowing my emotion. I'm not really dealing with them sometimes.
Right.
I'm the worst with dealing with stuff. What's up with me? I feel like I need a couch, and you can just counsel me through this right now.
If Dan could just leave the camera on, stretch up.
Oh, me. All right. Well, hey, anything else stood out to you in the message today?
I think it was. I love the transparency of the message.
It was good.
He gave some practical examples of like how he's been going to counseling for 3 years.
Yeah.
And that shows like, you know what? There's nobody like, first of all, I think you and I have even talked about this. Like counseling is it's so taboo. You know, I used to think, man, you've got to really be broken to go to counseling. And now I realize, okay, we're all really broken, but no, you don't have to be.
Yeah.
And how helpful it is. And so I appreciate the transparency very much. It just stood out that like, hey, none of us get out of this life unscathed.
Right.
So let's be transparent about who we are and where we're at, and address it so that we can live the life God has intended for us.
Yeah. I think I want to close on that note. I think there's often we allow things to stay hidden. We don't allow them to bring to light. We think we're the only ones that struggle with something, the only ones that feel this way. We think we're ashamed to go to counseling or get on medication or whatever.
Yeah.
I want to erase all of that. I mean, God provided all those resources for us.
Right.
I'm a different person today because of all those things. So I want to encourage you. If you need to talk to somebody, your church family, would love to talk to you.
Yeah.
And there's things outside of our scope of expertise, and I'm 100%, a huge advocate for counseling. It's played a huge impact on our life. So I want to encourage you to look into that. There's nothing taboo or wrong with that. It is just helpful and healthy.
Yep. That's it.
You got anything else?
No, it's a great way to finish.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, hey, thank you guys for joining us on this week's episode of The Breakdown. If you haven't seen the message, I want to encourage you to go check that out. I'm pointing like they do on YouTube as if there's going to be a link somewhere. And we'll see you next week.